The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning on the ongoing series of the CDP Spectrum client forums. We have a special edition today where we're going to be talking about the Spectrum SDX and Info-Link, and this should be really informative. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give a little overview of the Spectrum SDX and Info-Link, and then get into some examples of things we've done and how it's used. And as I said, it's going to be I think it'll be very informative, and I appreciate everyone taking their time today to join us. My name is Brett Kligerman with CDP. A number of you will probably know me from the client forums that we do, and just from generally being at CDP for quite a while. Also with us, we have Nate Kaufman and Greg Wooten, and I'm going to get to Greg in a second. But before we get started, I just wanted to go over a couple things. We're using GoToWebinar to present to you today. So everybody's lines are muted. If you have questions in the question box in the control panel, you can go ahead and type your questions in. And what we're going to do is we're going to type your questions in, and at the end, we're going to address the question. So this should take about 40 minutes, and then we'll answer your questions at the end. Also, this is being recorded. So in about 6 hours, you're going to get an email with a link to the recording. It'll be great to save, so you can go back and rewatch it and pick up, see things that you might have missed or want to see again, or share it with colleagues at your company. Also, in the handouts in the GoToWebinar, there is a copy of the presentation that Greg is going to go through. Feel free to download that and share that and use it as reference as well. And I think that's it. I think I covered everything. So Greg Wooten from CDP is going to talk about Spectrum and SDX. And just a little bit quick on Greg. Greg has been in the industry for 22 years. He worked at a family electrical contracting business where he did, I think, just about everything there, including for 22 years, worked on Spectrum, supported Spectrum, and got really good at working with Info-Link and then SDX and bringing data in and out, and just utilizing the tools to, leverage the data within Spectrum and stuff they're doing outside of Spectrum. So Greg's been with CDP for a year. He's been a great addition to our team. And Greg, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing? As Brett said, this is going to be kind of an introduction to SDX and Info-Link, and specifically kind of going to go over just ways I utilized it in my prior company and kind of get the wheels turning on how you might see benefit for you in your company. With that, we'll go ahead and get rolling. So from this, you really can use these tools to transform certain processes in your company to provide some efficiencies and streamline some things. Obviously, you'll see and some of the demo tools that I have. And this is not, I just want to do say that this is not going to be a replacement for what Spectrum currently offers in their reports, inquiry screens, or BI, as those are very useful tools. This is just going to be a little more customizable way to get some of the things out of Spectrum and into Spectrum for you specifically. It does help for you to have a good base in Excel to utilize these tools, specifically the Info-Link. It does deal with queries and some editing and manipulation of the data there to really utilize that tool to its full benefit. As for SDX, some Excel knowledge, but not quite as much. It's more of just an import tool. But if you guys don't have that specific knowledge set, feel free to reach out and we can help you create and do what's needed to kind of utilize these tools. in your company. So what are they? So Info-Link is going to be providing access to your SQL database. So it's going to be able to take and pull data that you're entering in pretty much every module. You're going to be able to take all that detailed data out of tables that are provided in your SQL database and organize it, sort it, analyze it in a bunch of different ways, pivot tables, whatever. There are other ways to utilize this link in Crystal Reports or Access, but for us specifically, you're going to see just how I utilized Excel to extract this data through Info-Link and use it in a variety of ways. SDX is going to be an Excel plugin that Spectrum provides. That is going to give you access. If you guys aren't aware of it, it's going to give you access to import a variety of data across multiple modules, just to try and eliminate as much as manual entry as possible. And you can see down there, for example, GL transactions, APs, invoice transactions, job cost info, job cost phases, payroll employee info. Those are just a few, but there's quite a few tables or quite a few import templates overall they provide. Utilizing it and getting it on your workstations. Info-Link, if you're an on-prem client, it's going to be a setup through your IT team to give you access to the SQL database on your servers. If you're hosted, it's like a two-step process. You're going to initially have to have authorization to that SQL database from Spectrum directly. And then also after that, you'll have an IT team set up on your workstation to go ahead and access that SQL database. User setup is done in Spectrum. They do have a wide range of security related to it because, as you can imagine, specifically for payroll data, let's say, or employee information data, some of that needs those security settings in place to protect that data, and not so that everyone can't get it. So there is a nice variety of security settings related to the user security settings that can be put in place for that. And then SDX is pretty simple, whether you're on-prem or hosted. It is a download and install of an add-in tool that you can find right in your current Spectrum installation. And for any of this, whether for the installation of either one of these, if it's something you're unfamiliar with or uncomfortable with, something that we can definitely provide for you at CDP if you need some assistance. Let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm just going to kind of go through. I'll leave the slideshow here for a minute. I'm going to be popping up some of the Excel files that I have so you can see exactly how I created or what I created in some of these files for utilization in the company. I broke this out in two kind of ways. The first one's going to be kind of ways that I used it to improve workflow, and then you'll see the second setting is going to be, or second set is going to be more of a reporting type of created reports. First, we're going to start with that customer billing form. This was a situation where we had a specific billing form from our customer that we had to complete for them on our contract billings. So what I utilized is I utilized Info-Link to pull some data from our draw requests, and then we were able to come in here and reference the invoice number. And you can see things will start pre-populating in here based on that draw data that's already in Spectrum. And in the background, it's pulling from the tables related. So this is more of a template, just pulling those values in for you. And you're going to see that's a constant theme is templates that are either pulling data, organizing data for ability to import it, but you're going to see mostly just these templates and not so much just the raw table data. So this was ability for us to.
Greg, I just want to confirm something. So when you type that number in, that's not something of the formula in the spreadsheet. That's pulling directly out of Spectrum and populating those fields.
It is. So
Right.
this in essence is our draw. This was our draw number. So it's using that as a reference to the draw details in Spectrum. And then it's coming in and saying, okay, this is the draw details. Now let's populate that with what project that was related to, the subcontract number we have, our original contract amount. Over here, I have a little table for associated change orders that it's pulling in based on that project. So it's saying, here's our approved change orders, and do we want to include those in here is what the option here is what I created. So you can have those add. And this is mainly if you have a customer that has like I said, this customer had a very unique billing form that we had to provide them with as a cover sheet. And then it comes down and just pulls all the associated data related to that billing. A lot of data that you're going to find on that AIA form is just put in a different way on here for them. So that was just one option there that I had for a customer billing form.
Very cool.
Yeah, moving along, change requests. I had a change request budget form here. So this is going to, so if I go ahead and delete this, you can see it initially comes in blank. This would be kind of your master template with that data in there. And this is going to be your change request number in the system. It went ahead and pre-populated all the job info here. And what this was is this was an in-house form that we like to keep for when we went ahead and budgeted the estimated cost for our change orders. We'd like to keep a PDF copy in our files of this specific budget. So you can see it automatically pulled all the phase codes associated with that project in here for me to go ahead and enter against them and have it as a record for us of how we completed that change order estimate. And also in here, you can see I had a value, just as the estimated values for the phases. I wanted to be able to see those just as I was reviewing the budgeted dollars. I was going to put in, you could easily change this to like a variance so you can see where you're at with the project. But yeah, it just gives you a nice clean form. Once again, pulling all that data real time from Spectrum, from the tables, and having it put on a nice template and organized for you for additional entry to what's already, moved over here for you. Nice little lookup lists that we had as well. One here is going to be job materials. There is ability to look at job materials. Why is it not opening? Oh, there we go. Sorry. So there's ability to do this in Spectrum to some degree, but what I liked here is I could come in and I could pick any one of our projects. I could pick any specific phase that was associated with the project and shortlist. That one didn't have any in it, so let's do all right now. But I could shortlist if I wanted to the information, what the quantity for that project currently was, unit prices for it. And all of this is just coming from that job materials data that's going to be in job costs for your project. So like I say, this is just a nice clean lookup list. My project managers and foremen every once in a while would have liked to know exactly where they're at with their wire buy, where they're at with their EMT buy, things like that. So I created this to have a nice ability to sort and filter in a way that benefited their utilization and made their job a little easier in the field analyzing their project. Another fun one for our project managers and for the company actually in general was ability to grab real-time data from Spectrum that would, let's give it a second, it should pop up here. So that was related to labor burden. So establishing our labor burden as a company. All of these figures here are coming real time straight from Spectrum and able to be updated real time to give our company an idea of what, this is some historical data obviously, but what our company's labor burden was at any given time. And then we kind of kept record of what we would put it in Spectrum to have it for our calculations on labor burden. And over here, this was just year to year. I would just keep a record of what the labor burden was, and as I saved over this Excel file year to year and updated it, it would just keep that and give us an idea where we're trending year over year. But yeah, nice, easy, just grabbing GL transaction data, specifying the GL categories you need in each area, and just summing those values for whatever year you choose to decide here. And in this one, you can see I could pick a different year and easily go ahead and see, well, I don't think we have any data for that one, but go ahead and see what the, prior year was for if you wanted to go back and look at it. So just a nice way to analyze that data quickly. And like I said, I just want to emphasize real-time in Spectrum, up-to-date data is what you're going to see when you refresh this on a regular basis. Here, I also just real quick, I separated this between construction and service, for example. This was just overall company, and then this was just kind of where we were at in each different department. So ability to do that too and break it down if needed. Let's see. Job cost. For job costing, I know they have a wide variety of job costing reports. You can see this one, project managers, this one specifically was more for me. Wanted to be able to come in and see where I was at with a specific project in comparison for my job to date cost with open commitments versus my estimated cost. And this could give me a quick idea of what phases I was either under or over variance on, and go ahead and look into those issues a little deeper in Spectrum if I needed to. So this was kind of a just kind of a nice list of, hey, let me check this every so often, see where I'm at, and go ahead and review whatever was needed to be addressed based on these. Here, this was based on, you can do all kinds of different setups, but this was anything over $1,000 over the variance. So you can set a range, you can do a bunch of different things that'll give you a nice clean analyzation of your costs currently for your projects, and nice short list view. And like I say, it's nice to have all projects listed. You could add a filter for project managers on here, so it shortlists projects that only certain project managers have. Just a variety of ways to create the spreadsheet and the pivot tables to crunch that data in Spectrum in any way you might need to.
Hey, Greg, I just want to remind everybody that if you do have questions, go ahead and type them in to the question box. Thanks.
Let's see, work order, for the using work order, using inventory. This was kind of our inventory cleanup tool, let's call it. Annually, I'd come in here and run an inventory item usage analysis. This is just pulling the quantity of specific items we used in work orders over a period of time. And then I would go in here and sort this by anything possibly, that was used, that we had less than 5 possibly used. And then I would kind of say, okay, are these items that we need to set as inactive in inventory that we're not going to utilize anymore, just to kind of keep our inventory cleaned up. The electrical industry, I think we had approximately 4,000 items in our inventory database. So we would try and kind of keep it as organized and clean to what we actually utilized on a regular basis. So that was kind of what this tool, but just like I say, get the wheels turning on what it can do. Maybe this may not be applicable for your specific situation, but maybe opens your eyes to some things you might need or might see benefit in using for this kind of analyzation. Workflow and billing for work orders. This one was, this is kind of our service work order checklist, let's call it. So everything that had this status here meant that the technicians in the field were completed with the work order and ready for in-office review and prep for invoicing. So this list would provide based on a complete date filter, for example, we could utilize a range to say, I want to show all these invoices that we're going to be billing for this week for this instance. And you can use this filter here to set that. and then it would give them a checklist of everything that needs to get completed with some just basic details of that work order. And then this one was set to auto refresh, which is something nice you can do for the query. So as they would complete these, they would change these to what is called a bill work order status. And once that changes here, then it would drop off this list. So once this status here would change, it would drop off the list, and then eventually this list would be blank. And then they were able to come in and just pull up the same list here for the billed items that they went ahead and reviewed. And this is kind of as you go to do your billing in Spectrum, in essence, a checklist to make sure you've included all of these in this date range that you went ahead and did your final review and marked as bill. So just a nice little workflow spreadsheet to help out, keep track of those things that the service department really found beneficial. Work order timesheets. This was pulling directly from work order and creating nice timesheets that mirrored our timesheets, their manual timesheets our employees would submit. So it would mirror exactly what they would submit, and they could come in and do a nice quick review of what the employees had entered into Spectrum on the work orders for the week that we were looking at payroll for. And they could come in and have, if they had dual monitors, have the digital version of their manual on one side, and then this is actually the entry in the work order labor for that technician and what they had specifically, so they can just do a clean look and make sure the overtime, if it's overtime, is that correct? Was it regular time? And then obviously just reviewing the hours worked and review it to see if there's any changes that need to be made. Just another nice little workflow for analyzing your actual time for your service techs and moving over to payroll. So workflow wise, that completes the workflow portion in total. Let's just close out of these real quick. I apologize. Let's get through these. And then next we're going to move on to just some Excel reports that I created that are going to be, I'll show you a little difference in what Excel had versus what the Spectrum report looks like. Let's go ahead and move off of this one here. For our reporting, let's see. Okay, so for an example, so your aged payables report. So when you pull that from Spectrum, it's going to give you a report very similar to this right here with all these details. For our aged payables, our AP employee was really not excited about this report and wanted something a little more tailored to what they wanted to see. So I created this aging report for them to utilize in lieu of that. So the ability to come in, select whatever due date might be applicable to the invoices you're looking at. Here it has it summarized by job. I also have a vendor totals if that's something that's a little more applicable to you. So either way, there's, like I said, there's a lot of ways to customize how you're summarizing the data. And then the ability to come in and look at a specific vendor, for example, and bring up the invoices associated with them. So one thing here for on-prem clients, which we were when I created these, I was able to create a nice hyperlink here that would actually, if you click this, I'm not connected to my prior servers, but if I was, I could click this and it would instantly bring up a PDF from document imaging of this specific invoice for reference, which was really nice. AP Office really enjoyed that ability to do that rather than have to go back into Spectrum, enter these invoice details and pull it up. So just a nice quick reference as you're looking for totals here, and ability to expand and look at the details there. So back to jobs, like I said, if your project managers want to look at invoices for projects, for example, they have ability to come here and expand and look at, by vendor. They can have it organized in totals if they'd like, just to get an idea what they're spending with each vendor in that month for that project. Or if they can go ahead and expand that and look at the individual invoice detail. And once again, the on-prem clients are able to have that link directly into document imaging and pull up a PDF of that invoice for them. So just a real nice functionality there to really dig into the details of your projects and for your AP. For accounts receivable, I'll move on to the next one, was cash receipts that we had. And let's see, so Spectrum, this is what the cash receipts here looks like that they pull up. She wasn't a big fan of that layout, so I gave her a nice clean layout here that just gave her a little difference, gave her possibly a little additional detail in this situation that they might want, and ability to come in and run this based on any date that an individual might want to and pull it up when needed. And they just enjoyed this view a little better than the Spectrum report. So this one's pretty simplistic and cut and dry here. Spectrum customer aging. This was a big one. So customer aging, much like AP aging, it's going to be, I mean, you can organize this in Spectrum in a couple different ways, how you want this detail to group, but nonetheless, it's a little bit, it's organized in its own way, but not super user-friendly and viewer-friendly when you go to look up some detail in here. So I went ahead and created a different customer aging report. Let's give it a second here. So this was the aging report that I created based off the Spectrum data that would give them the identical detail if they ran the Spectrum report, but just in a different, nice, easy format. A nice option I did here was a projected pay date. We were lucky enough that our general contractors normally paid in somewhat of a routine cycle. So I was able to take the date that the checks were received and create kind of an average day to pay and get this projected pay date column created for the owners so they could analyze, you know, or get an idea of when those checks might be rolling in at any given time. Obviously, this is not concrete, but just they liked having that ability to kind of in their head have an idea when that might be arriving. This is going to provide a lot of the same data the other report does, but just very organized, ability to filter it and sort it here, knowing if it was a retainage billing that you had is something I added to make it say retainage if it was just a retainage billing. If it was an invoice that was an invoice plus retainage, it would say invoice / retainage. So they really, the owners really like that ability to quickly point those out or filter those out, knowing that retainage may not be being paid in the near future possibly, so they could remove those from this report real easy and go ahead and say, okay, these are just my invoices I can expect to receive this month most likely, or in the coming dates. So this one they really enjoyed utilizing, and yeah, just another example of real-time data you can pull out and organize in a nice way. For service, you know, there is a couple different ways to view your work orders and just the general details of them. This is one of the reports Spectrum offers here. I know you can also, on your main work order screen, when you're going into data entry, you can pull up a window that you're able to have some selections and create a custom view there to some extent. Once again, a service department wanted something a little more robust for their needs. So I created this work order service log here that will pull up momentarily. And this just gave them a nice layout that they enjoyed. This was sorted by when they entered it in Spectrum, so it just kept a rolling list of what the work orders were going on in Spectrum, ability to see a lot of details on here. One thing specifically that on the report is not an option is priority. So the ability to have this priority was a big deal to them, to see the work orders in the system, ability to filter by technician if they'd like, but a lot of it was priority. They want to do service tech, technician sort, and then priority to see, for instance, a certain individual and what they needed to be jumping on next, for example. Gives you a nice little summary straight from the work order summary description that's in the work order itself. And if they are a finished work order, it is going to have that finish date and time just for their reference moving forward. So they use this for a variety of reasons, and just gave a really nice summary view of those work orders and some details. And this one was an idea of they wanted it just all the different tiers. They just wanted the service techs in the first column to have a nice clean list of them organized by service tech and what work orders they were currently assigned to. So that was just another layout that they preferred to have for their ability to analyze. So yeah, so that pretty much is going to sum up our Info-Link portion of it. We'll move on to the SDX portion next. Let me close out of these real quick. And so for SDX, and as a quick reminder, SDX is what we're utilizing to bring data into Spectrum. So in some ways you'll see here, I used a combination of both Info-Link to help pre-populate some data, and then the SDX tool obviously to take all that data in there. So the first one here, Home Depot and Lowe's. Home Depot and Lowe's invoicing was, went from originally being just taking receipts and manually entering them to being able to come in, and what you're looking at here is just an input spreadsheet, let's call it. So right here, this is the CSV file from Home Depot that gives the details of the transactions. We're able to go in and add the other ID or other information that was required for this AP import here. And once all this detail was completed, it's feeding all of this directly to one of our SDX import sheets that's provided to you here. So if you're familiar with the SDX import sheets, you're going to have, these columns all here are going to be your field columns that have to be set up, or the data has to be set up underneath these according to them. And there are some specifics to it, and we can get into that in more detail later. But all it's doing is taking this line item data here, transferring it to what we had as our import spreadsheet. I could go ahead and copy whatever selection of data that we needed, find that associated invoice import, and paste it here. And then for those that are familiar with SDX, it's real easy. From this point, you just come into Spectrum and you have the ability to click on Spectrum. My wheel's spinning here. And click on Spectrum, and I don't know why it's freezing up for a second here, I apologize. But click on the Spectrum tab and click sync, and it would go ahead and sync this data right into Spectrum. So just a nice, easy way to take the Home Depot information and get it on a nice importable spreadsheet and go ahead and bring it in through SDX. Let's see here. Don't know why. Well, technology is not wanting to play nicely. Give me 1 second. All right. Let's see. So move on. Let's go to job info and budgets. Let's see. So for job info and budget import capability, we originally used a nice template here that would, you could populate the information for your job info here, for example. Spectrum offers a job import functionality. So we would grab this data. From there, align it accordingly on here, and this is just referencing the corresponding cells in the template, and be able to go ahead and copy and paste this into a template from Spectrum and import the job info to create that project easily in Spectrum. The next part of it is the estimate for the project. Over here in the estimate details, I would copy and paste our estimate details from our estimating software into here. That would automatically feed to this form over here to the corresponding phases for the project. And then once again, I have this data tying to an import spreadsheet here. And like I say, all this is doing is just pulling the specific information from this template and giving it, setting it up and organizing it on a nice, clean, importable spreadsheet that Spectrum offers through SDX. So, so first you have your ability to take that project, input your data, create a new job through the job import SDX template, and then second step is easily take that estimate data and move it over through this phase import SDX template. So just a nice clean ability, and we like to have that original budget data. So we'd normally save this in a job folder, so we would just have it for what was initially put in, as well as giving us reference to those estimate details if anything looks off when we look at the import in Spectrum. Let's see, next, so job budget. And so this next one here is going to be job budget. So this is going to be for a internal change order, let's call it. So ability to come in and create internal change order on the fly. We had different reasons that we might want to go ahead and make changes to a specific project here. You can see what entering the job number in and the segment code, which was our middle phase number here. It's just going to automatically, as you saw, pre-populate our job name, our customer, all in phases, all of that pulling directly from Spectrum. So this one here is going to be an idea of what you can utilize Info-Link for. So this data is all pulling from tables. And then once you populate this data to do your internal change and whatever values you might want to put in, you can go ahead and have that automatically organized right here on this importable spreadsheet through SDX for change request import capability it provides. So a little bit of both there, and ease to just put this in, pre-populate some information, automatically pull all the phases associated with that job so you don't have this dual entry to do, and then all that feeding nicely to an import spreadsheet here. And honestly, I think at this point, that is the end of the demo for the variety of ways I used both of these. And how it helped the company, and hopefully you see some benefit in that for your company and different ways you can utilize it. Let's see. And if we have any questions.
Yep, we do have questions, Greg. And one thing to point out is you're just kind of scratching the surface on this, right? You can do so many things with this.
Yeah, this was just, like I said, all of this these were just unique processes in the company or unique ways they wanted to analyze data that they brought to me.
Yep.
And it's either maybe we don't like this report layout, maybe we want to see some specific information that's not in a report, maybe we want some quick listings, you know, and over and beyond this for some customers. I mean, there's ways to take, SDX. I'm creating currently some things I've done since with CDP is individuals that might use third-party payroll, ability to use Info-Link to pull pre-time card data out of Spectrum. put it on a template that you may have from a third-party payroll company so that you can send them, you can send it to them easily in a way they like. So all that does is you just open a spreadsheet, click refresh, it's automatically going to pull real-time data, lay it out in whatever template that third-party payroll company may need, and you can send it off to them. So there's some tools or some new ways I've used it since being with CDP2. So yeah, I'm learning new ways to use it all the time. So it just depends on client needs. So
awesome. So let's get with the questions now. First question is, I may have missed this, but how do users access reports that are made via Info-Link? And there's a second part to that. How do we establish security on different reports and files?
okay, so the reports you're creating through Info-Link are nothing more than an Excel file that you're creating. It's going to be it's going to have queries in there that are going to be pulling data, and then you're going to have tabs that you're taking that data and making it, and for easy terminology, you're just making it look pretty on a template on another tab in that Excel file. So they're literally just Excel files that you're pulling up and looking at. Now for the security purposes of it, for the Info-Link data itself, to create that query and establish that connection in that specific file, you do need to enter specific credentials, user credentials you set up in Spectrum. And when you set those user credentials up in Spectrum, at that level, you set the security rights up for that individual. So when you open the query or you open the spreadsheet you've created that has all the data and the tables associated, it's going to ask you for credentials to access that Excel file. You can also choose to protect the file itself in Excel to do that, to only allow certain people to open it if you'd like to do that. Like I said, security is a good part to understand if we get deeper into the conversation with you, to make sure that so yeah, and like I said, payroll and employee information are two that are pretty secure information. You need to make sure there's a good understanding of who can pull queries for that information and how to set that up accordingly.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg. The next question is, can we use this tool to move data within Spectrum? For example, move copy equipment from one company to another.
Yes. So the ability to pull the data easily out of Spectrum through Info-Link if you so choose to, or if there's a specific report that you'd like to export from Spectrum in Excel, that's another option to get that data out. And then then utilize the SDX template that you may need and go ahead and just put the appropriate company code, which is a required column on all templates. Appropriate company code you want that to go into, and move it right over into there. So yeah, that's definitely a capability.
Awesome, thank you. Next question is, do you work with Power BI? We've recently been exploring this option, and the answer is yes. You can connect Power BI in the Spectrum. Greg, I don't know do you have any experience with Power BI?
I don't yet. I know we briefly spoke about it a couple of weeks back. I'm definitely interested in getting to know more about it, though.
Okay, so we do have somebody on staff that is extremely experienced in Power BI and can build reports in Power BI. The next and last question, so if you have any more questions, please type them in. How does SDX hook up to the info to a PO? This was my problem previously.
So yeah, that's a little more of a detailed question. So getting into the PO import capability, we can address that directly if that's okay. I'd say, Brett, we probably just need to reach out to them in an email.
Okay,
and have a little more detailed conversation on structuring that for import.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's our last question. I have one question for you, Greg, about connecting Info-Link and SDX to Spectrum or getting access. Do you have to go through support to make that initial connection?
So for Info-Link, there is a specific document we have that gives a nice detail of, I mean, in short, it's a support ticket you create to request that access to your SQL database if you are a hosted client. It's got some details on there for, you know, allowed IP addresses, and an ability to say, hey, this is what I need Spectrum support. You send it to them, and then they get back to you, let you know when it's completed. And then at that point, it's just some IT setup in Office for a server connection from your workstation, or a connection from your workstation to that server. It's called an ODBC setup that you do, and all of that, you know, it is in Spectrum's help menu and knowledge base. They do have some details on there that can help you understand that process a little better, or you can just reach out to us and we'd be happy to walk you through it. The SDX connection, is pretty simple. You set up a user in Spectrum. You allow them access to whatever import templates you see necessary for that individual. And then you go ahead and you download the actual plugin from Spectrum. It's actually in one of the menu options to click it, download it, and then install it. And then you just use your user credentials and your URL for your company and a little about section in Excel, and it automatically adds a Spectrum tab to your Excel that has that detail in it and access to your templates. So just real quick, so for example, once you set it up, you'll have this Spectrum tab here, and the about section is everything. You can find all of this when you do your Spectrum, your setup in Spectrum itself, but it's just giving you a service URL, authorization ID, and company that you, like I said, all this data you can find through your user setup and right in Spectrum. And then, yeah, and then it'll give you access to all, this is all templates pretty much provided, but you can shortlist this for employees based on their need specifically. So they can't accidentally import into different areas they shouldn't be working in. So that's just a kind of a quick idea what it looks like once it's installed.
All right, and that actually might have answered the next question, which is, and the last question, is there a list of existing templates?
Yeah, all of that is found in Spectrum when you go in to that. When you go into the, I think it's in System Admin, Installation, Data Exchange. That's going to give you access to set up your users. It's going to give you access when you do set up your users to identify. It gives you a list of all the templates by module that are available, and then you can choose to click and add those to that user. It's pretty user-friendly interface to do that.
And also for a list, if you go into help, and I'm seeing if I can find this, and go into and type in SDX, there should be web services. Yes, you should be able to find that list.
Yeah, I think web services is that keyword, and it'll bring up a list of all the available templates, as well as for each one of the fields associated with that template. That's actually a great point, Brett, because this gives you a lot of useful information for each template, how the field data, whether it's required or not, and how it should be structured and formatted to make sure there's not any issues with import. So that's a great tool to utilize to make sure that data is getting put on those spreadsheets and minimize any errors.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the great questions. We really appreciate the interaction there. And just to remind you, you're going to be getting an email probably in about 6 hours with a link to this presentation. You can, go back and watch it and see the great examples that Greg presented. If you do have any questions, I'm pretty sure you know how to get in touch with us. feel free to reach out to us. And thank you, and look for more of these in the near future. More Spectrum, our client forums, and also other product featured presentations that we'll be doing. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Thank you, Greg. Great job.
All right. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
All right.
Have a great day.
Bye.